Hello, and welcome to the Unscripted Pharmacist. Today, I will be interviewing Jason Thomas. And Jason Thomas is, I want to call him one of the park people. Um, so, in Sacramento, I love to go to this park. And this park has people that are exercising and they are doing their best. And the frustration that I feel as they're doing these laps and trying to burn these calories. And then along comes Jason and Monica. And I have no idea what happened, but all of a sudden there was a sudden feeling like I should go up and talk to this person. And that's the boldness that I'm trying to emulate, is like go up to people and say, hey, I've got this amazing message. I know I sound like a missionary, but hey, I've got this amazing message, but wait a minute, you look like you're doing really good. And so watching you guys walk and the smile on your face, like, oh, something's different about this guy. Let's inquire a little bit further. And from there, we just kind of had a really good conversation about really the carnivore, because when you started showing me your psoriasis, I was like, oh, hey, have you thought about doing the ultimate elimination diet of carnivore? You're like, day 67, bro. That's where I'm at. So I knew that, like, hey, this is a man of my tribe and I need to connect with him. So here we are. I just really want everyone to know that this is for anybody. Anybody can do this diet if they want to try, right? It's all about trying, but you have a really interesting story, because I feel like it's your motivation for change is probably a little bit more painfully significant than your average person.
Right. So, hello. Good afternoon, Kyle. Good to see you again, man. It was fortuitous that we met. It was the Unscripted Pharmacy van that I saw, and Monica and I started asking questions because you will occasionally see some low carb, and we didn't even know. I was like, I wonder what that's all about. And then you jumped up and said, do you have questions? And so then we made Monica late for returning to work. So that's like just our afternoon walk.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. It was great to meet you, man. I'm going to say on your podcast that I'm just really impressed with what you're doing here. So I hope I can help. But yeah, my story is, I think for most people to go carnivore, you get to a point where it feels like a last chance. And for me, it wasn't so much a last chance. What it was I have an HSA. I don't know if you've talked about that on other podcasts, but it's a great savings vehicle for healthcare. But when I got my psoriasis diagnosis and then psoriatic arthritis, I started with methotrexate. That progressed to methotrexate and nabumetone. I'm going to use these drugs because I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because you had extra money to burn on your HSA card, right? Yeah. Was it use it or lose it?
No, that's a
tax-free.
That's an FSA. I'm talking about an HSA, health savings account. So we can,
which anyway, you would need a ton of money for these meds.
Right, but
they are generic. But
the things that makes the HSA so valuable is that you can't take the money out tax-free to pay for medical bills. Ideally, you just pay for your medical bills and you let that money grow. And the reason that I stopped going to the doctor was because the money was growing, but my expenses were going up every year. So pills were being added, costs were going up. So by 2014, I had about $7,000 or $8,000 in costs from psychiatrists, rheumatologists, all the different drugs. And
how many different drugs were you taking total? Do you remember? Because you mentioned.
So I'm going to try and list them all. I'm going to probably forget
a lot.
Yeah, but methotrexate, nabumetone, Valium, another muscle relaxer, because that's what nabumetone is.
Right.
And then an antidepressant, which I can't remember the name of. And that was really started for me. I was like, I'm taking more and more drugs for the same problem. And I'd already had to quit boxing, which is, really at the time I was training for a professional fight when all this started. So I was really depressed.
Passion killer.
I was upset because I didn't feel any better. So I started thinking about dietary hacks, right? And any kind of hack. I started doing cold water therapy, like extremely cold water therapy. Anything I could find to try and get my body to get back to homeostasis. And there was like fasting, which is actually, I think fasting is very therapeutic, but I don't know that it's great for trying to heal your body. That wasn't
Give me a time frame. What year are you at? Like how long have you been?
so in 2015. I basically told my wife, I was like, I'm done with doctors. I'm done with medicine. Right? I just
2015. Okay.
okay. So at that time I started with a vegetarian diet um, because I didn't know any better, and that's how you start. So I'm talking about, I know how to cook. So lentils, brown rice, quinoa, what I would consider a high quality vegetarian diet. I'm cooking stuff. Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
such thing, but
Yeah.
I'm making like whole foods, and I'm cooking. I'm not like eating vegetarian from the grocery store.
Who sent you down this path?
It's
What
just no, the
monkey?
propaganda. It's just the
Okay.
propaganda. I
So
just
your
see.
physician told you this,
No,
you
no,
should
no, no,
consider this
doctor.
diet.
I actually asked every doctor I went to see, and they didn't give me any dietary recommendations, as you might imagine. But I had heard that plant based was the way to go, like we still hear every day. And so I said, I'm going to try it. Look, within 3 months, I'd gained about 10 pounds just specifically in my gut, and I was pre diabetic, which I've never been before or after in my life. So that's how long it took for brown rice and lentils to completely give me metabolic syndrome. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, I was like, okay, well, that's not working. Then I stumbled upon this guy named
But
Butter Bob.
at
So,
this point, were you on any medications in
no,
2015?
I'd stopped taking everything prescribed. I was taking Advil just to deal with pain, or
Okay.
over the counter.
Because I was wondering if
Um,
you were taking the prednisone as well. Because
no,
prednisone,
I
you were
mean,
on prednisone, right?
I forgot, but yeah, at some point I was on
Yeah.
prednisone as
Because that
well.
would just make your glucose skyrocket. I would just want to make sure that it wasn't the prednisone that does what it typically does and causes diabetes in patients,
um,
right?
you know, I don't know if this is right for the podcast, but I got fired from my job because of prednisone because I had a bit of a psychotic
Oh, you
break.
got psychosis.
I did, man. I saw a
Oh,
spacecraft, and then I almost killed a guy in the plant store because he called me a retard. And I was like, I don't know who you think you know who you're talking to, but you
oh,
can't
wait a
talk to
minute.
me
You
like
must have
that.
been on a big dose.
I don't know how high the dose was, but I don't usually react like that, man. It was
Prednisone
crazy.
causes a psychosis. Yeah,
I was I was
prednisone induced
I was
psychosis.
definitely struggling
Wow.
with reality, dude. It was, but
Sorry, that's not
oh, no
funny.
worries. You know the drugs a lot better than
Drug
I do, and
cost your job.
I'm super excited to talk to you about it because I know about the iatrogenic harm of
Yes,
medication.
yes.
So anyway, I stumbled upon Butter Bob, and I remember thinking I saw a thumbnail like "eat fat to lose weight," and of course I'd gained all this weight on this vegetarian. Well, not a lot of weight, but I gained some weight on the vegetarian diet, and I was like,
Potatoes.
that doesn't make any sense because again, I've always been told saturated fat and fat in general is bad for me, and I believe that. Why would I question it? But it's really weird when you hear the truth for the first time, and I believe that a pure heart or a clean heart knows the truth when they hear it, and something inside me like clicked, and I watched the video,
Discernment. Yeah.
and
What
I
was that first video? What was the game changer
it
for
was
you?
I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was something like "eat fat to lose fat" or something like that,
Who was it
and
by?
his name's Butter Bob.
Butter
Um,
Bob. Yeah. Is he still around? I'm just
I
sorry.
don't know. I mean, I progressed through other
I know
videos,
Dr.
but
Ali kind of calls him out and he's like, Butter Bob, if you're around. And
yeah,
I think Butter Bob did inspire Dr. Nadir Ali.
I don't know. I mean, but
Yeah.
there's so many good content creators, and but
That's
for
correct.
him, it's just looking at him and his experience, and I thought, do my eyes deceive me? So then I got into keto, and I got to be honest, like keto, it worked for me in terms of helping me lose the weight. I wasn't. We did get the keto monitor, so yeah, my blood sugars got lower. Inflammation was still just as bad. I don't know if that's because I was eating blueberries and strawberries and peanut butter and stuff like that, but
Mm.
no relief whatsoever. But I knew I had started down the path and done enough research, like this is a better way to eat. So even if these problems aren't going away, I'm going to keep eating like this. Well, I got into fasting after that because I'd watched enough videos. I was convinced that if I just didn't eat for long enough, that my body would heal itself. I did an 11-day fast, Kyle. I went from 170 pounds to 140 in 11
Wow.
days. And really, because I didn't know what I was doing, I went catabolic. And so almost all the weight I lost was muscle, which, boy, the first time I tried to do push ups after that was terrible. So um, at that point, my wife and I, Monica and I, were just sticking keto because we'd both kind of been convinced that, this is a better way to live. It's a healthier way to live. I wasn't seeing any result. Now, in the winter, my arthritis always gets worse, regardless of what level of inflammation I'm at. And so, at some point before COVID, and because of COVID, my timelines are all confused, because they just basically kept us all inside and away for everyone for years. So I've lost track of time. But before COVID, um, Monica had basically told me, my wife, if you don't go back to if you can't figure out how to biohack your way to health, you got to go back to the doctor and get on medicine. Well, that had become something to me that I was just like religiously against. I knew that wasn't that there was not one doctor who told me there was a cure for psoriasis or any way that he could heal me. All he told me was that he could give me medicine. And so I said, all right, that's it. I'm going to try this crazy ass carnivore diet. I'll do it as an elimination diet. It can't possibly work. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I mean, all these thoughts are going through my head.
You have
And
nothing left to lose at this point.
and that
right?
was the key for me. And
Now,
here,
do you have some engineering background, because you're pretty methodical about, okay, I gave this an adequate try.
trial and error.
I did
No.
what?
I have trial and error. I have the mind of an engineer without any of the
Yeah,
degrees or
I can
masters.
tell.
But I mean, I'm not stupid. I mean, basically from being an athlete my whole life. I mean, I try something. If it doesn't work, I try something different.
You know
I
what
just
rabbit to chase, huh?
applied the basically the same principles of just trial and error. And if we start talking about my father-in-law at some point who's dying of statin-induced heart failure, he is an engineer, and it drives me nuts that he will not try and figure out what's wrong with him, because it's not hard to figure out. Kaiser knows what's going on. But anyway, um,
Yes.
I'm getting excited,
Yeah.
and I've
No,
lost my.
I feel the passion too. I got the same issues and the same HMO.
I lost my train of thought, pal. But so I did go
You were talking about
carnivore.
switching to carnivore.
Yeah,
I met you
and
on day 67, but there's a lot happened before that.
there was. And so my first go round with carnivore, because that was 2021. Um,
Yeah.
so it
Wow.
actually was. It wasn't before COVID, because now I do remember. It was during COVID.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, now
but
what medications were you on for your psoriasis? Were you on any medications at
I
this
never
point?
I never took anything for my
Okay,
skin.
good. All right.
I don't like it, but it's just cosmetic. I mean,
Yeah.
there's something wrong, obviously, but it's not anything that I worry about so much. So anyway,
I can we just take 1 second to pause and go, just psoriasis. What does it mean to you on like a daily basis? What do you deal with? What are your symptoms?
um, right now, because it's the summer, well, it's spring, but it's mostly, it feels like summer here, and I spend plenty of time in the sun. My skin's already healing. The sun will heal psoriasis, for the most part. When it's the winter, it gets flaky and itchy, and it'll bleed if I pick at it. But
Okay.
the skin condition itself is nothing compared to the arthritis. The arthritis is
Mm,
crippling. So
gotcha.
the whole thing with this, I've never had complete skin clearance at any point during the carnivore diet. I know some people have remarkable results, but I will get into complete remission as far as my arthritis goes. So anyway, did that answer all your questions? I mean, I don't
So
know if you
like,
can
so
see
you
it.
feel this,
So
yeah.
there's,
Oh yeah.
can you
Okay.
even
So
see that? So it's getting
yeah,
better.
that's black.
This whole elbow was patchy and white, and now it's just this small
It's
area. It's
plaques.
backwards, but yeah.
So you
Um,
feel, other than that, you feel this a lot of muscle aches and pain,
excuse me.
but you're not getting sunlight,
Well, no, I
right? And
did,
you're taking
right.
vitamin D.
Right. Well, no, this is, before, like, so actually today, we met you in the park. I don't remember. I guess it was day 67, but this is day 77. So it's been 10 days.
Nice. Cool.
Um, so right now I don't have any pain. I got off Advil last week. But
Yay.
just to give you an example of how much pain I was in February, I was taking 6 Advil a day. And the only reason I was only taking six is because that's the maximum recommended dose. And I
That's a
was
lot.
taking it every day, and it's a shit ton. It's more
Yeah.
than I wanted to take. And I knew that. I actually told
Tears
my
you up.
wife, I was like, this carnivore doesn't work. I'm going to have to go back on medicine because methotrexate's probably safer than taking six ibuprofen every day.
Wow.
Um,
So you
anyways,
are definitely motivated to do this carnivore diet.
I am, and the way I feel is just night and day. Like I said in February, we could barely walk together. And what you saw was like just one of our afternoon walks. We run anywhere from 5 to 7 miles a day most days.
That's a lot. That's
Um,
good.
it is. But I will say, and I do think this is important. It's one thing I wanted to do your podcast was that um, if you're interested in carnivore, it certainly works. I think for most people, it's definitely worked for me. But you might read in comments where there are people, and I actually get kind of angry with these people who supposedly reverse their condition in 3 to 5 days, right? Like almost immediately once they change their diet. And I don't think it's a placebo effect because it's taken me 67 days to get here. I just think some people probably just react faster than that. Maybe it's the amount of metabolic damage you've done. I don't know. I'm not educated enough to speak on that. But I usually have what I guess is oxalate dumping or something at some point in the first month. By the third or fourth week, I usually feel worse than I did when I started.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I don't quit is because I am well read enough in the science and inflammation and everything to know that if I just keep going, and of course I believe in life when we face struggles and we face obstacles. If we get over the obstacle, it gets better. If we run from the struggle or the obstacle, it's just going to come back. So that's part of my philosophy. So I do remember the first time I did this, I'm like, wow, I'm not feeling any better. But again, something inside me was like, just keep with it. So anyway, I'm all over the place today, Kyle. But
No,
the first
just
time, the
just
first
out of
time I
just out
wanted
of
to
curiosity. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say the first time I wanted a complete remission. So 2021,
Okay.
strict carnivore, no condiments, no
You had
horseradish,
it was a
no
victory.
yeah, and complete
Okay.
remission. And then guess what? I mean, I'm still living by keto principles, but hey, whatever's wrong with me, I've fixed it so I can eat whatever I want. And I was able to do that for the next year and a half without really having the pain come back. But it came back this fall in spades. So by December, to give you a context, in November we ran 21 times because I'm training for an ultra marathon. But in
Ah,
December, my arthritis got so bad I couldn't run and I could barely walk again. So that's the second go round. So we're on day 67 because we had to get through the holidays. I made a trip home because I wanted to start in December, but we really needed a time frame where we didn't have like work things to where we could commit and say,
distractions.
we're not going to break it for anything. No cheat days, nothing. And I was thinking about it, before this podcast. My cheats start with just like horseradish and like salsa on my eggs, and these things seem benign, and maybe they are, but they just lead to more.
Yeah.
It leads to me wanting to make my food a fun thing, right?
Into the dark cave you go.
Right. So,
Yeah.
um, but
So
I am here.
what do you think is the number one suspect? What do you think that what is it about the diet that you were doing before? Maybe share some specifics about what do you think was exacerbating or causing this arthritis, as well as how the carnivore diet you're certain basically that this is what was the cause and this is the change I've in other words, have you tested your hypothesis? This is the particular nutrient of concern. I felt like when I eliminated this, I had these results, and then when I reinstituted it, I had the exact same results again. Have you ever tried doing?
Well, sure. So I started with the elimination diet.
Right.
And the interesting thing, the confounding factor for me is testing the theory is that, like I said, when I went into remission, I was good for like 12 months where I could eat anything and not have any food triggers. But the reason I know it works, to answer your question, maybe your second question first, is because, like I told you, in February, I was taking 6 ibuprofen a day every day. I'm not taking any more ibuprofen now. There is no inflammation in my body. We ran 8 miles on Saturday, which is a long run for us. No soreness the next day. A little
Mm-hmm.
sore 2 days after, and that's just kind of how my body is. I'm more sore 2 days after a workout than one day for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I will say that when I was testing it, and I could, obviously sugar, just any kind of sugar like an ice cream or, but strangely things like asparagus, sweet
Really?
potatoes really affected my body in a
Mm-hmm.
negative way. And I'm pretty sure I'm gluten intolerant, but I've never taken an allergy test, but I used to be a big drinker, and because I'm so stubborn, I would drink beer. Beer always just ripped up my guts. So I'm thinking that
Trying to
might just
convince
be,
yourself it was worth it
well,
every single time.
I
Come
was,
on, you can do this. Just this one.
I just wanted to be cool. And I'm from the South. I'm from Louisiana, and so drinking is a big part of our culture. But that's another like huge benefit of the carnivore diet. Alcohol. I misspoke earlier. Doctors will tell you not to smoke or drink alcohol when you have psoriasis. It's the only dietary recommendation they'll give you. But before carnivore, I couldn't stop drinking. So you might understand this. I was drinking half a bottle of whiskey while taking methotrexate. So I would be up all night, dry heaving. And I would do this
So
night
hard on your
after night
stomach.
after night. Yeah, and my liver. But I
Oof.
couldn't quit while I was burning carbs. And I saw a comment today that really resonated with me. Said a doctor had told him, a 90-year-old doctor had told him that alcoholism is just carb addiction. And I had never made the connection, or sugar addiction. But anyway, I couldn't quit drinking until carnivore. And then once I became fat adapted, I didn't want to drink anymore. And it's not because I thought my drinking was a problem, even though it was, obviously, when I'm drinking when I'm not supposed to be, taking a medicine that's contraindicated.
Right.
But, that's just kind of part of the lies that we tell ourselves. But the point is that I wasn't starting the carnivore diet to quit drinking. It happened naturally. And it's just another strong anecdotal proof to me that like it not only it cleans you from the inside out, right? So it cleans your body and then it fixes your mind. So I've struggled with depression my whole life. I won't say anxiety, but uh, maybe it is anxiety. I guess I'm too much of a man
Well, they
to want to
typically
admit
go
it.
together, though. You were on
Yeah,
medications for that.
right.
Did the medications
I don't.
work?
I don't like to think of myself as anxious, but I guess
Oh,
that's what it is.
oh
I'm a
gosh.
man's
What percent
man,
of the
so.
population is
Uh,
anxious? Come on.
so, but the point is, all that went away for the most part. I mean, sure, I still have bad days and get frustrated and down,
Mm.
but it's not like it used to be. Um, and I attribute, like, there's studies. I saw a French psychiatrist did this where he had institutional patients, like borderline personality, manic, and
Mm.
I've dealt with mental health to know that when you get into the institutional level, you're like in the major leagues of mental health problems. This guy, like half his patients within 30 days of a high fat diet were leaving the institution. And he had just kind of tried it just to see if it would
Right.
help. And so I would, I'll send you the study over if I can find it. I sent it to my sister in law. She's a psychiatrist. And I've been trying, she has had a severe injury during COVID and she is in bed 16 hours a day. She can't walk. Um, and I have tried to convince her to go on the carnivore diet because, again, what's the difference? They can't diagnose her. They've diagnosed her with MCAS, which I've never heard of, mast cell activation syndrome. Um,
Some sort of inflammation disorder. I mean, if she's got free time, man, have her read Chris Palmer's Brain Energy. I mean, healthy body, healthy mind. Any sort of you think about any sort of damage to the mitochondria, alcohol, sugar, seed oils, whatever, right? Increase in ROS, carbohydrate metabolism, increases reactive oxygen species. It's going to increase inflammation, but it's also going to damage the mitochondria, which is the energy producers of all cells, especially the brain. So energetically involved brain. Like if imagine if you don't have the ability to make things that would stimulate you so that you're not depressed, right? As well as you should be moving and you're not moving, right? Everything is being managed by these mitochondria. So anything that damages, and that's the part about alcohol that I can't stand.
okay.
Dang, that sucks. It damages the mitochondria. When I read this, I'm like, okay, I got to stop. All right,
Well,
no more.
I found this graphic that actually, what was it? Cauliflower and anyway, cruciferous vegetables, they do kill cancer cells, but they also kill healthy mitochondria in the graphic I saw. So I don't know if that's true because I have to rely on what people are saying. But just like nuts have cyanide in them, I mean,
This is the food is medicine, but I kind of agree with you. Eliminating, because when you're doing the carnivore diet, you are really eliminating a lot of processed foods, right?
right?
No
You have
more
to. Well, I
boxes
mean,
and barcodes garbage, right?
sure.
So if you are decreasing seed oils, which is in everything, canola oil, probably the most common. Like if you are decreasing these oils, you are decreasing this arachidonic acid pathway, which is where inflammation comes from. The precursor for arachidonic acid is a seed oil. Seed oil causes an increase in arachidonic acid. You increase arachidonic acid, you increase inflammation. Seed oils cause inflammation. That's it.
Have you seen what?
And that's where those drugs work. That's how those drugs work in that arachidonic acid pathway, so you don't get the inflammation. That's your anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
It's reducing those inflammatory mediators that are created by the seed oils through the arachidonic acid pathway. You know more than your doctor knows.
I'm fascinated just to talk to someone who really understands the entire biochemistry. I know
what's the link, right? What's the link between lifestyle and disease?
I know
that's what you're all about.
Absolutely toxic. Well, yeah, and I figured it out. Like I just need to eat meat, eggs, and butter, and I'm good in bacon. Because, like you said, I mean, if I want to go to a restaurant and order eggs, they still might cook it in a seed oil, right?
Yeah.
So I can't even be sure that I'm going to get it just cooked in butter. My eggs are probably not going to be pasture raised and all that stuff. So
it's everywhere.
It is, but what I find interesting is in the medical community, if there are these gatekeepers who will say that, if someone says seed oils are toxic, which they are, and absolutely destructive, they'll call you a conspiracy theorist. And what I find so frustrating about this is, okay, I went carnivore, but I had a grand mal seizure when I was 17. I think it was from over drinking, or it could have been a number of factors. But they put me on Dilantin, and man, that shit knocked me out. Excuse my language.
You're a zombie on that stuff.
But no one ever mentioned the ketogenic diet, which was developed as a therapeutic treatment before they had anticonvulsants. So we know that the ketogenic diet can prevent most people with the seizure disorder from having seizures. That's one therapeutic use. We know it can reverse type 2 diabetes. Yep. We have Eric Westman and Dr. Stephen Finney that can prove that. And Dr. Jason Fung, plenty of doctors using the ketogenic diet to reverse type 2 diabetes, which you know very well. My nephew has autism. There have been great results in studying people with autism in a high-fat diet. There's a documentary called The Magic Pill where they take this little girl who's almost nonverbal, and she becomes a regular, normal little girl after being on the high-fat diet. Now, results might not be the same for everyone, but the idea that food is not medicine or that it can't be medicine, I've just debunked it. And really, we haven't studied it with enough other things because it's such a dangerous or deadly
and there's
diet.
No money in it.
Right. There's no money in killing people without giving them the drugs. So
we've known that about epilepsy for a long time. Fast a child. If they have epilepsy, it will go away in a short period of time. But then we got medication. So what's the point? Right. What's the point of doing anything if we have a medication to fix it? It's the same thing with diabetes.
Yeah.
You discover insulin in 1920s, and then you turn around and go, okay, well, no more fasting, no more low carb for you diabetics. You can have whatever you want. Just cover your carbs with insulin. And we've been on this journey for so long. It's a glucose problem. You think that you would reduce glucose. Duh. It just seems so obvious. What have we been doing for so long prior to the invention of insulin? And if you're like me, you talk about being duped and tricked. You're like, what the hell's going on? I thought insulin came in a vial. What do you mean every single cell has an insulin receptor? I was pissed when I found that out. I'm like, no way. Why didn't you tell me? And some doctors that I talked to, they're like, insulin. Nobody ever mentioned insulin.
Right.
So if you mention insulin to your doctor, he's going to scratch his head and go, what are you talking about? You want a fasting insulin level? Oh, come on. You're not diabetic.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, you said it before, it's the corruption and the money. I mean, when you go down the cholesterol rabbit hole, and how many cardiologists don't really understand what lipoproteins are and what their function is. I don't know how any self-respecting doctor could ever prescribe a statin to one of his patients or her patients.
That is a tough one to convince. Yes. Well, I think it's about informed consent. Did your doctor really give you informed consent when he put you on all those medications? He never told you that, hey, this might be fixable with diet, which is what you're discovering.
Right.
You never got informed consent about the medications. I feel like we don't get informed consent about diet and nutrition. Doctor never went over and said, hey, this low-fat diet will have these side effects, right? How much time do you spend talking to your doctor about nutrition, about consequences of lifestyle choices? It's like it's never a discussion. And
It's funny that you
I
mentioned that.
thought I thought doctors spent a lot of time with patients going over this stuff because doctor means to be a teacher.
Right.
They're not teaching. They're not talking about your meds before you pick them up.
I've never had a doctor go over any side effects, always a pharmacist. But it's interesting you say that because I'm just connecting in my mind all the side effects from the high fat diet, like keto rash and keto
Oh yeah,
flu. And yeah, none of
yeah,
these
yeah,
side
yeah.
effects are really bad, but they definitely come out and try to scare you with those. Like, oh, you don't want a keto rash. And,
Yeah.
my
Oh,
methotrexate made my hair fall out. It gave me a
oh
headache.
yeah.
I felt like shit for 2 days, and I was
How was
on
your
20
liver?
milligrams. The numbers never got too bad, even with the
Okay.
drinking, surprisingly. But
Yeah, because that's trashing your liver there.
and the funny
Methotrexate's wicked.
it is, but the thing was, I didn't want to take Humira or Enbrel because
Oh,
I knew enough to know that those drugs could literally kill you. That they killed people
and
in
they're like
trials.
$80,000 a year.
That was part of it too. I have a neighbor who just started Rinvoq because this 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 winter was bad for a lot of arthritis sufferers, I think. So we talk about arthritis all the time, and I've
Yeah.
told him several times, like, no, I don't take any medicine. And I asked him what his new drug was, and he said Invoke. I say, oh, you're taking it's an AbbVie drug. It's a JAK1 inhibitor. Um, has a black box warning. Killed people during the trials. I'll tell you something that you're not gonna believe. There's a drug that Gilead. I own Gilead Sciences. I have a friend that works there.
Oh, I know about Gilead.
Yeah, they're special. But they did buy a company that had a JAK1 inhibitor that actually was more effective than Rinvoq, and the only serious side effect was a headache and maybe sterility. Which, by the way, my methotrexate and sulfasalazine, I was on sulfasalazine for a while
Oh,
too, can cause that. But the FDA refused to approve this drug based on the fact that there was very vague evidence that it may cause a man to become sterile. And I got to tell you, if you have arthritis, most times you don't give a shit about that if you've got a safe drug that works. Now,
yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't approved because then I might have just taken the drug. Um, but that's how corrupt our FDA is that they approved AbbVie's JAK1 inhibitor, which is much more deleterious. I mean, that drug literally kills people. It killed people in the trials. I don't
Well,
know how that gets
well,
approved, but
I don't want to start something here, but I might as well finish.
okay.
Um, the
Go.
head of the FDA, Robert Califf, has a lot of stock options in Gilead.
Oh, okay.
So that's how the remdesivir got its emergency use
Oh God,
quick
man.
evaluation, and boom, we have remdesivir in the hospital, and man, people are getting very, very bradycardic, so their heart rate's going way down. Hmm.
You
It didn't seem to make a difference either.
if you survive COVID and you're treated with remdesivir, it's in spite of the remdesivir, not because of it. That
Oh,
drug was
definitely
stopped in
not.
a phase 2 Ebola study. It was stopped because of a safety
God.
signal. I know all their drugs because I'm still invested in the company. And look, it's an unrighteous world. I got to make money, so I'm invested. And the guy I played basketball with was a solid guy. He wasn't an evil
Well,
guy. He wasn't trying to
it's
hurt
probably a
people.
solid company too, especially
Uh,
with you got the right people on your team,
But that was
man.
total crap that they approved remdesivir, and I don't have the
Uh,
qualifications, but
yes.
steroids. It's a cytokine storm that kills people with COVID in general, and basic steroids usually can stop that.
And I
Um,
would say that's your condition. You have inflammation gone off the rails.
right,
That's essentially what you have. And
sure,
that's what killed people during COVID.
yeah,
And here you are dealing with this all the time, trying to keep your immune system nice and quiet, not like burning like a freaking flame, right? You're just trying to calm that furnace down.
right.
That's difficult.
Well, and it is, and it takes a while. That's why it takes me a long time. But I will say that it's obvious red meat doesn't cause inflammation because I'm eating a shit. Excuse me, I mean, I'm cursing a lot. I'm eating
You're
a
eating a
lot of red
shit ton
meat.
of meat. I am
Yeah,
with
I'm
you,
eating a lot
bro.
of red meat, and my inflammation's gone down.
Yeah.
Um,
I
gosh, I
I
was
think it's a lot of this. Okay, so your suspects, my number one suspect's got to be some sort of grain. Could be a seed oil in your diet, both of which could drive this autoimmune disorder because your
I think I
inflammation
got a
is not
hole in my
checked.
gut, man, because
You think you?
I like it's a microscopic tear. When you say leaky gut syndrome, people think
Oh
you're
yeah.
um, but I like hot stuff, dude. Like I said, it's the horseradish, and I like
Mm.
ghost pepper salsa. And
Horseradish. Okay.
I have read that. Now, I don't think that's the main culprit. I'm saying that if you have that leaky gut, then anything you eat will spill into your system. This is why this is why I theorize that once the carnivore diet healed me, I was good for like a year, right? I could eat anything I wanted. Now, I still tried to eat keto, but I ate a lot more sugar than I had been before I got myself well. And I think so. What they say with leaky gut a lot of times is you'll get a candida overwhelming your gut, and they'll just start burrowing through your gut, and they'll create that little. So it's just a microscopic tear. Have you heard of leaky gut syndrome? I figured you might be familiar with it.
Oh, for sure. No, but
Okay.
I'm just thinking about you, and I'm going, okay, he's taking nabumetone. You're taking anti-inflammatories, which reduce that mucosal lining that protects your stomach. So when you start talking about an insult, could cayenne be that insult that now you've got essentially kind of an erosion of your stomach where you can have this increase in
permeability.
I don't know, permeability of your gastric lining, right?
Right.
We don't ever want to diminish that mucosal lining, right? That's there to protect us. And that's exactly what the drugs do. So number one cause, right? Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, peptic ulcer disease, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Man, it's crazy.
You can't let the sewer in, right? The sewer needs to stay where it belongs.
Every time my mother falls, she breaks something. I am not kidding. And she takes antacids like they're jelly beans. And I'm like, Mother, these antacids are giving you brittle bone syndrome. They're making you, extremely osteo. But, she didn't want to change any of her behavior. So, and she's
insulin
70.
Resistance certainly drives osteopenia for sure. And
I'm sure you heard this, Dan, but I wanted to circle back. I'm so glad you wanted to talk about COVID. My understanding is that the worst case scenarios for people admitted to the hospital with COVID were people with high blood sugar and people with low vitamin D levels and diabetics. So what are we talking about here? The standard American diet, right?
Yeah. We're talking about ACE2 receptors that are higher in diabetics and pre-diabetics, where the spike protein can then do its job, right? And you're thinking that all this endothelial damage, right? All the lining of all your arteries are being damaged, and you don't have the proper equilibrium where the repair can meet the damage. Instead, you've got too much damage and you can't meet the repair. Okay. That's damage to the endothelium. That's what's driving this cardiovascular disease and all this clotting that we see in COVID.
Right.
Right. It's the endothelial lining that's being damaged. And there's so many things that we do in our lifestyle that damages the endothelial lining. Smoking's one of them. It's a toxin, right? It damages the endothelial cells, right? High glucose.
So tell me more about that. So high glucose, smoking, what else?
Smoking, any sort of environmental toxin, PM 2.5, right?
Okay.
Any sort of pollutant, right? So anything that can damage the glycocalyx.
Okay.
So glycocalyx is really fascinating because imagine a wet fish. Do you really touch the fish? There's this slimy layer on it.
Right.
Right? That slimy layer is the glycocalyx. Think of that lining your arteries. So nothing really touches the endothelial cells that are on the other side of that glycocalyx, like mucus layer. That needs to stay protected. High blood sugars, uric acid, a decrease in nitric oxide, clotting, all these things affect this glycocalyx, and we want to preserve this. But that is how we start atherosclerotic lesions. Start right there.
Right.
You got basically like a cut. You got a clot that forms over it, and then we're trying to repair that. So we make another membrane over it. We try to get some more endothelial cells to put on top of that to try to replace what's damaged. So this is constant repair and damage that we're constantly doing, and how good is your repair system?
Well, that's where the lipoproteins come in, right? And that's why they get fingered for heart disease. But they're really just trying to fix what you're ruining with all your blood sugar spikes.
Yes.
And whatever else, like you said, I don't know all the causes.
You're totally right. You're totally right. It's like an immune reaction to a repair, right? And those tiny little particles, right? LDL particles, but these are apolipoprotein B, a high particle number, very small, dense LDL particles. You remember this? Right? So very small, dense LDL particles. And when they've been sticking around longer, they get glycated and oxidized. And that's exactly what a macrophage loves, right? The white blood cell. macrophage. It goes in there and it senses this, right? And this is part of the repair system. And it goes in there and becomes a foam cell, and it becomes unstable. Essentially, is when it breaks off and we've got this stroke, heart attack.
Are most pharmacists this well educated? I feel like I'm talking to a doctor.
No, I've been watching I've been chasing the same rabbits as you, bro.
Don't you know the technical a lot better than me, but
I love it. But my whole goal of what I'm trying to do is I just want people to learn. I just want you to learn so that you can go out and all right, save yourself, have an intelligent conversation with your doctor and say, hey, what you know about atherosclerosis is, I hate to say it, you're not going to find even a cardiologist that will accept this process, especially with the small, dense LDL particles.
Anyone
increasing our risk for cardiovascular disease.
That a high LDL number by itself is indicative of heart disease. They're not smarter than me. I don't care where they went to school. Monica's, the first time we did carnivore, she did some blood work, and her LDL was highish. It was above the range, but her HDL was 70, and her triglycerides were 50. And I'm like, that's nothing to worry about.
Rock solid.
It means your body's healing. I actually was like, I wish my LDL was that high because I need to heal. Like you were talking about, I need to heal some of this damage. I'll tell you one of the weird things about carnivore. I don't know if you've heard this, but the plaque on my teeth just starts coming off.
Yeah.
It just comes off by itself when I start flossing. But what the dentist has to scrape off, it just comes off. And I have a theory. Now, this is, again, I'm just a layperson, but I'm imagining this is what's happening inside my body, that where there are these buildups, I'm thinking that, and, I do think there might be a very mild risk of having a stroke if you had maybe a lot of plaque buildup in a certain area and it just starts coming loose. Because I don't know why it would come off my teeth. But I feel
I don't know about why those plaques, but you just brought up the number one cause of cardiovascular disease in the world is gingivitis. People that aren't, they're eating sugar, they're not taking care of their teeth, and they've got this inflammation. You know all about inflammation, that cascade. Once it gets going, it's kind of hard to stop, like what we experienced with COVID. How do you stop that?
My guns don't bleed anymore, and look, I've got less fondness for dentists than I do for doctors. So unless I have an abscess or something really wrong with me, I'm not going to the dentist.
I love to hear how the ketogenic diet reduced pain, and in you, it really worked.
I did.
That is really impressive. You wouldn't think, the ketogenic diet is going to reduce my pain. I'm going to be able to get off of my pain meds.
It was the carnivore diet, not ketogenic for me. But I guess all the carnivore diets are ketogenic in a sense. But
true.
I do worry about the berries and stuff. What I thought was a superfood at the beginning of the ketogenic diet, like blueberries and strawberries. I'm not sure that they're very safe at all with all the pesticides and everything that they say. But
you ain't missing much.
We probably travel in a lot of the same circles. I've been watching some of these much more informed people talk about fruit is 7 times more deadly than glucose, like fructose, which is just blowing my mind. I don't know if that's accurate, but
I don't know about that conversion.
I don't either. It seems extreme. But I'll say this. Yeah. I've been convinced that plants are trying to kill me. I'm not sure that fruit isn't. So
you listen to Dr. Anthony Chaffee.
I do. I like Dr.
I do really like him. He is a beast.
He's a big man.
I've seen him in person, and he's just you're double me. We had a very short conversation about rugby, and I was like, yeah, you were a professional. I played in college for a year or two. No, not like you.
I like for advocates of this healthy lifestyle to look right. So I'm a big fan of Dr. Robert Lustig. I started with him. He doesn't look healthy, to me anymore. He looks like he's gained some weight. He doesn't get enough sunshine. I don't know the guy. But
you bring up a very important point, and that is they should wear the confidence of what they're doing.
Right. It should
this
work.
Is who I am. This is my diet. I really want people to ask me what I'm eating, not ask me what I'm doing. Right. I'm doing a lot more now than I ever have. But the question should be, what are you eating? How many people walk up to, and I've done this before, and say, hey, total stranger, what do you eat? Because you look great. How many people?
Well, I don't know too much about the sport that you're in, but I can tell you as a former boxer, you're very fit. I could tell just by looking at the veins on your arms. That's a really good sign to me when someone's very vascular. That
I use those really muscles.
Good.
Yeah. No, but it's like stand-up paddleboarding is like running, but with your arms. It becomes really natural kind of thing. And the workout that you could get in 20 minutes, I would have to go for like an hour and a half paddle. I would just go and go and go. So the efficiency is really high. So I don't get as much out of it. So I'm looking for someone like you to go walking with me, walk and talk at the park. So sounds like a date.
Well, I like to exercise. Have you, do you live in Redding? I mean,
I live in Redding, but I'm down in Sacramento while the wife's working at Sutter Sac. And so we're chilling in the van during the day and just, we make it happen. It's a very simple.
If you don't mind me asking, how do you work? What do you mean working?
Oh, all my stuff's remote. I'm making online learning courses. So I have like a free 14-day course. The website's, it's getting there. So a free 14-day course, and then like a 90-day course, and then like live Q&A, as well as private coaching. We've talked a little bit about this as well, using wearables.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Right? Using CGM.
I'm very interested in the CGM. I am a little creeped about, the putting it in your body.
No.
Can I swim laps once I get that thing in there? Can I swim laps once I put it in there?
You can do anything. Anything you want. Hot tubs, showers, whatever. You just don't want to rub against it. Depends on where you put it. I put it on my abdomen before. That's an easier place.
Okay.
Because you might whack this. Well, whacking your arms super easy.
When you sent me your paddleboarding thing, I'm very intrigued because I'm into. Now, when I was boxing, of course, I was into HIIT. I mean, I wanted to work my heart as long as I could. But I'm doing much more low and slow workouts now. But I'm trying to go much further than I ever have because I've always been a fast twitch, explosive athlete, and I'm trying to transition into more of a long twitch. I want to run a 50-mile race, which for someone with arthritis and joint damage is a huge accomplishment.
I know. What can I'm going to work on you, bro. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to talk you out of it.
Really? No, because, is it bad for me to run 50 miles?
Well, type 1 versus you got to stay hydrated. You got to be, let's do this. I want you to do this. No, I want to watch you.
Okay.
I'll monitor your glucose levels while you're doing this long run. And I can be like, hey, you need some sugar. Your blood sugar just dropped into the 60s or something like that. But I would be quite interested with the continuous glucose monitor on you because of your diet. I bet you don't fluctuate much at all. I bet your variation is like less than 10% and your blood sugar is really low.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see it too. Now, I'm a long way from running 50 miles. Yesterday, I was telling Monica I could probably run 20. And I mean, if I really wanted to dig deep, maybe a little further. But that's next April that I'm trying to shoot for.
Good. You got some goals. I love it.
Yeah.
You did martial arts before.
I used to box. So,
Teach me. Teach me.
Sure.
Oh, I'm down. Dave, I'm down for anything.
How often are you in Sacramento? When you told me this podcast, you were in Redding.
Be there in 2 days.
Okay. Well, you got my number. I can bring my gear down to the park, dude. We can work out in the park.
Hey, I've got some extra paddle boards. Why don't you come out to the lake too? And at Natomas, and we'll do a little bit of a quick lesson.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be fun. See, isn't this great?
Oh man, it's so nice. Look, I have been. We talked about this a little. I thought we might talk about more how hard it is dealing with family and trying to help family. And finally talking to people who are hearing what I'm saying and understand it has been so liberating. I have felt so alienated and alone, knowing that I can't help my brother, I can't help his wife, I can't help my mother. And at some point, I've just given up. And the funny thing is they'll tell me, you look great. What are you doing? And I'm like, the same thing I was doing the last time you saw me.
Well, that's just great.
Daily, and I'm eating meat.
That's great for you.
All right. I could never give up my bread. Or I could never. No. It's always never.
No, but like, you're a different person than what you were how long ago, right? Totally you were a totally different person 15 years ago. And that's who they know. And now we're here.
The thing about the carnivore diet
you're a different person.
Or even maybe with keto with some people, is the beauty about it is the longer you do it, the more it becomes a lifestyle, right? Everyone starts it as a hack or a diet. But like I said, with alcohol, I'm convinced that as you clean out your body and cleaning out your mind, your behavior will change to where I've read where people that didn't really like to exercise before like to exercise now. Of course, because they have so much more strength and utility than they used to.
Well, they got some more energy. They're releasing all that fat that they've been storing for the last 20 years. The brain's having a feast because they're fat adapted, like you and me.
Maybe 5 pounds of muscle,
really,
without lifting a weight. So right now I weigh 160, and usually at this point, this is the weight I want to stay at. Now, I don't know if that's actually the weight my body needs to be at, but it's the weight that I like for myself. I've got a 31-inch waist, which is actually, it's probably closer to 30 and a half. But I'm 5'7". But the point is that I've never been able to carry this weight without being overweight. Do you understand what I'm saying? So right now,
I'm so crystal clear on that topic.
So right now,
you have to hold your breath just to put your shoes on.
But I weigh this much without lifting any weight. So I put on muscle in my legs, through my shoulders, through my chest. Without, now I do swim in my pool and we run, but I'm not doing anything to build that muscle. It's just all the freaking protein I need.
But it's interesting because people start exercising when they're feeling properly. They start having to move.
Yes.
Because now they got that leptin ghrelin signaling in the brain. That leptin start humming. It's getting elevated, right? Which tells you that you're full, satisfied, satiated, and you need to move. You have to move.
Right.
Pain goes away, so now you have no excuse. You got tons of energy because you're feasting on stored fat, and now it's like, go. Just find something that you'll do all the time, right? Like you and your wife walking. It's something that you can do all the time. And that's why I do paddleboarding, because I used to live minutes from the water. I could do this every day, right?
Why not? It's a good habit to get into, right?
Yeah. Join me. I'm stoked for that.
And the thing is, I do believe diet is the core to health, but daily exercise of any kind, walking very low impact, but getting outside, getting some fresh air, that's a pretty big aspect of being healthy too. And it is interesting that, I was going to try and move anyway, just because that's me. I'm O negative. I'm hyperactive. Even when I'm in pain, I want to move. Like when I have days where I just sit in bed, they're the worst days, and it feels like it takes forever. But if we get up and go running, which is what we usually do, or we get up and go for a walk, then we might walk in the afternoon, like when we ran into you. Those days are great, but the days where I just sit inside because it's windy or for whatever reason I didn't sleep well. I will say with the carnivore diet, I don't sleep great. I've never have. And I'm trying to hack that and figure it out. But
we got to get you one of these, the Aura Ring. We got to look at your sleep. It'll be fun. Because we can work on sleep hygiene and improve sleep and dial each other in. I think that'd be really cool. I'll show you my stuff.
Okay.
And I've got an app that we can kind of put the CGM and the Aura Ring together, or whatever watch you want to use. But there's our ways to. This is basically what we're doing. This is just medical engineering. We're hacking, right? We're gonna look at you. We're gonna create a digital twin of you, put all the numbers, and create what Jason looks like, right, on the inside. How does all these hormones and everything interact with each other? And now we've got like a digital copy of you, and now we know how to optimize you.
After we're done, let's talk about this, because I'm interested. We could turn this into a series once we get all this data.
Oh no, this is so much fun. We can nerd out for hours. All right. Okay, we're going to continue this conversation like tomorrow. I'll be in town on Thursday. I'm looking forward to seeing you, man.
Oh, great. So text me, hit me up, and I hope this podcast went well. If not, we can do it again. So.
Oh no, this has been so much fun. This is a great conversation. I appreciate you taking your time out. And if you want to contact Jason, I guess Jason, you'll share your information. We could do it through the show notes if we want.
Okay.
Send an email or something like that. Is that cool?
I'll send you my email. Sure.
Yeah, you can share your personal story. I love it.
Cool,
all right. Thank you so much.
All
right. You take care.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.